Hello, I'm Jon Edwards with E.F. Productions and Edwards Electronics, and today I have my good friend and neighbor Andrew here, and I have a couple of questions for Andrew. Andrew, are you an electronics tech?
No, I am not.
Are you an AV tech?
No, I am not.
Okay, do you have any experience with this equipment?
No, I have zero experience with AV equipment.
Okay, and have I gone over the disassembly and reassembly with you?
No, you have not.
So this is going to be your first try at it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and that's what we want today. We want to see how well you work with the kit, and what the company, Osee Technologies, is looking for is just to see how easy or difficult it is for a user who might receive one of these without the switcher in it. See how easy it would be for them to put their own in, because they're just considering whether or not they want to sell the kit by itself. So this is kind of a video just to give the people there an idea of how difficult a typical user might have it. We want to see how somebody with no acquaintance with the equipment, and more so not being a tech by trade, how they deal with it.
Okay, let's
All
get
right,
into
I've got
it.
you a few tools over here. I'm going to get over on this other camera and shoot video of it,
Okay.
and get some close-up shots.
So the first thing I see is that the deck is held in with these brackets here, and that all the screws are T-heads, and so that's is that an 8 or a 10?
Which one did you just try?
8.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you it
see.
should be an 8.
Okay.
Sorry about the tool. Wish I had something a little bit better to work with.
Yeah, so yeah, we may need a hex head. No, this doesn't seem to be grabbing it. Yeah, this one came loose. There we go. So we have 7 or 8 more.
Should be 8. So what are you doing with the screws? Just setting them off to the side there?
Well, I separated these two because I wasn't sure if they were the same, but they do all appear to be the same. So, and these screws appear to just hold this bracket here, the kickstand, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
And so those don't appear to need to be removed.
Right.
Now it looks like we should get some movement out of the cover here now. Oh yeah. Okay.
What are you seeing?
Well, I see a lot of cords, and the shortest one is here, so that's going to have to be removed.
Yep. I will tell you right now, since we don't have any instructions for you, that is a ribbon cable that connects up to that card slot that you see a card plugged into right now.
Okay, so it goes from this slot to the deck.
Yeah, and just like any of those SD cards, you should be able to push in and it should kick out.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And you should be able to pull that out. Okay, before you do anything more, we need to do something to protect the screen. So Andrew, the time that I did it before, I used a padded envelope, and I found this old padded envelope that you can put up here, and hopefully that'll keep us from getting the screen scratched. But you don't have to worry about these cables that attach to this display.
Okay.
But you are going to have to lean this up now to get access to the rest of the cables.
Oh, okay.
One thing you might want to do is set all your screws together off to the side somewhere out of the way so they don't get knocked into no man's land. Okay, I'm going to leave you to it and go back to manning a camera here. All right. So Andrew has the ribbon cable detached from the SD card slot.
So one thing I noticed is that it would probably be easier if I remove these brackets after unplugging these cords, after disconnecting all the cables. I think we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
These, I'm assuming these are audio cables. Yeah, they're labeled mic.
You should have 2 mic and 1 headphone.
I'm gonna set that right there on the back of the case so it can support it. And that's
Can we do something a little bit different here? Go ahead and open this all the way up.
Okay.
And
There we go.
let's tilt this case up to where it's getting some light so we can see what you're doing.
Hey, how about we turn it?
Well,
There we go.
yeah, that will work too.
There we go.
All right.
Because that resting it there provides a nice support for pulling down on these. And so. Let's see, and this looks like it has 2 plugs on one
Yes.
ribbon.
USB-C.
There we go.
Yep, that was the Ethernet connection. And now, last but not least, the power connection. There you go. You got it
Okay.
disassembled. Now let's go back over a couple things. Let's open this back up. Go ahead and pull that back up. And one thing I just thought of, and that is on this USB-C, it can only connect up a certain way because there is a difference between the connections on the back here. You have USB-C 1 and 2 back here, and they do serve different functions. on this switcher, so that has to be plugged in correctly. The good thing is if you keep the ribbon cable flat, it connects up correct. Now if you turn it, it will plug up the same, but it will be incorrect as far as the port assignments on the back of the unit, so we need to be careful about that.
All right. So this is how we would receive the unit.
Right.
All right, well, let's put it together.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to give you one more hint too. Did you notice something about all the ribbon cables with the HDMI connections?
I mean, I noticed they're very firm connections. They're all labeled on the chipboard back here. And
they're
all,
pretty much
they all appear to be in order.
line.
Yeah, they all appear to be in order and labeled on the back. So
what do you see inside the case?
well, when I look at the case, I see a chipboard at the back with cables coming off of it, and they're all labeled on the board.
What else do you see?
Well, it looks like some sort of transformer here, power transformer.
Yep, power supply.
And a cooling fan here. Is there something else I'm missing?
No, that's it. Just want to see what you noticed.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Very good.
So, all right, we're going to put it together now?
Yes, go ahead and reassemble.
All righty. So, I believe those cables will be a lot easier to handle with the brackets in, so I'm going to go ahead and put those brackets in first.
Yep, at this point there is no wrong way, so that's good. I think that's a smart idea.
So one of the things I'm doing is I'm putting weight on my arm here to keep the case down on the table.
You're doing that for what reason?
Well, because all the weight is at the top right now, basically.
Do you think it's necessary to put something over the screen to protect it?
I probably wouldn't. So on to the USBs.
I will
Actually,
tell
we'll
you,
do the Ethernet next.
yes. The USB connections, they will pull themselves out. They do not lock in place like the Ethernet connection does.
Now we're on to the HDMIs. It is a bit hard to see under the deck. But
is your impression of the HDMI connectors?
My impression is that they're very firm. They feel like very solid connections, and they don't slide in and out as quite as easily as you would expect a normal HDMI cord. They're very tight connections. They feel like quality connections. They're not going to move. That's my assessment. So now we have mic 1, mic 2, and phone left. And as I said, it is a little bit difficult to see under the deck there.
Okay, now that you've gotten it that far along, can I show you something?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is where I am going to show Andrew something that I did different. Okay, before we do any more of these connections, let me show you what I did.
Okay.
I went ahead and opened this up like this and laid this down so I could have access and be able to see everything. That was the reason for the padded envelope. Now I use a little bit larger one. A piece of cardboard would work, something thick that, just in case. Now there's really not anything protruding that's going to break the screen that I know of. I don't even think the T-bar is protruding enough to do any damage at this point, but this enabled me to be able to see. So now I'm going to, before you go any further, let me grab the other camera, and I want to get some better shots of you working with this.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Alrighty. Now, if I were to work on it like this, I would use a pad.
I thought this might help you a little bit.
There we go.
And it also shows the users just how much easier it is to gain access to everything. Now, let me ask you, have you double checked everything, or is the audio cable connections correct?
I pretty much double checked everything as I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, these are mic 1, mic 2. Mic 1's on the left of the deck, left to right, 1 and 2. The phone jack is on top. There's one more connection to be made here. So once we close it, we'll slide the SD extender in. And then we'll get back to nuts and bolts.
Okay.
So I'm gonna slide it forward.
Now, I will also give you another little tip. As you are about to lay that deck down in there, check your USB-C connections and make sure that they're still tight up inside the unit's USB-C connections.
Yeah.
All right, good deal.
Make sure no ribbons get pinched. Shouldn't be an issue.
Now this connection is really tight.
Oh, this is a tight connection here.
Are you ready for another tip?
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Okay, one of the things that I did, Andrew, is I also
There we
recessed
go.
that
Okay.
back so that
There you
I'd
go.
have a little bit more access room.
Yeah, that. Ah, okay. There we go. Click. Oh, let's do that again.
I will tell
There
you
we
that
go.
does not lock into place.
Oh, okay.
So it can easily pull
There,
out.
it's in.
All right.
Bring this back to the front.
I'm going to recommend that we power it up before you put all the screws back in. And let's make sure that the SD card reads.
Okay.
Better not be.
All right, which would you like to power first?
Well, main power. Yeah, there you go. You got it. All right, now press down for a second and let off. Just a second. We'll see if it comes up and operates. If it'll play back, yeah, see, it's already showing the graphics up on the screen that's on the card, so that's a good thing. And it's showing some other graphics from last Friday's job. Any comments on the hardware quality? Do you think they could improve on the hardware as far as the screws?
I mean, personally, what I'm looking here is I'm seeing, when you look closely, it appears to be a hex. So that would be, what that would be, like an H8 or something, the correct one. I personally, I like hex heads and T heads because they just never strip. As a mechanic, I have never had to replace a hex or a T head screw or bit, aside from having lost one. They just don't strip like the other designs do. If it were up to me, everything would either be a hex or a T head. And so I think it's great they use these screws, especially if somebody's going to be taking the deck in and out.
Yeah, those are actually Torx head. Those are T8s. That's been the consensus. Let me take a look at one. I'm going to go
They're
ahead and
flat-sided. They don't have a star. They're flat-sided.
I'm going to get in your light for a moment. Yeah. You know, I do believe you might be right.
They're small, aren't they? I think it would be an H8 is what they call it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm not sure what they are. T8s or...
Yeah, I think it's
I mean,
an
it
H.
does
I think
look
it's
a
an
little
H8.
bit like a star, but
Because they're flat-sided, it would be an H.
yeah, I'm not... I mean, we could try.
And it's a hex for sure. I can't guarantee the size. I mean, I'm assuming it's an 8 since the T8 fits.
Oh,
So I'm assuming H8 would be the bit you would want.
well,
And,
I think a 8 would be way too large in a hex. It'd be like a 2.
You're getting
Yeah.
a good bite on it too, huh?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that doesn't bite as well. Yeah, you're getting a much better bite on it. with
Yeah.
that.
One thing we just discovered is that these screws are not T8s like what was commonly, you know, I even made the mistake in my video. These are an H2. They're a hex head screw, 2 millimeter. They're pretty small. I assumed it was a Torx head, but it's not. It's a hex head. So my neighbor figured that out.
Well, like I said, the great thing about these screws is they're very hard to damage. And so
If you use the right tool.
if you use the wrong tool, they're hard to damage.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just hard to damage. So they're great
So
screws.
any, don't step away. Any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, my overall assessment is if you can change batteries and toys and hook up a gaming system, then you can do this. You know, the average, anybody in who's operated devices in the average household can do this. As far as assembly.
I know one thing. I'm glad. There's another gentleman who did a similar video to mine, and when I looked at his, he even thought it was a T8.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a T8 that I used to disassemble mine, and it ended up being a hex head all along. And it wasn't until, I went and put it into some very bright light and looked at it that, by golly, Andrew's right. It's a hex head, and it happens to be a 2mm hex head. Isn't that right? Isn't that the one I pulled
Yeah,
up?
I believe it was the 2. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, but overall build quality, what do you think?
Well, the case is not thin plastic. It's heavy polymer. It feels sturdy. I'm gonna close the lid here.
I will tell you, I've had it out on 2 live streams, and this kit's been really nice to have.
Mhm. I mean, it seems to be, like I said, built out of heavy polymer. It feels like a really sturdy kit. This is not a light deck. It does not feel gimmicky or flyweight. It's a nice heavy build. Feels sturdy.
Okay, well that's it. Andrew, thank you for helping out with this video. The people at Osee Technologies is going to enjoy it, and hopefully they get a kick out of the fact that you discovered that it's not a T8 screw, that it's a hex head screw.
I got them welding inspector eyes.
That's right.
There we go. I look at tiny little bubbles all day that are
That's
way
one
smaller.
thing he has done is welding inspections. All right, well thank you.
You're welcome.